So, Erin, good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know about you, but I feel like being a little bit angry about Larry Nassar. How are you?
Oh, I've been angry about Larry Nassar for about the last 3 weeks. So yeah, I'm ready to sit with you on that. Yeah.
Okay. I just watched the interview that Rachel Denhollander and Kyle, whose name is escaping me.
Stevens, I wrote it down.
There you go. Kyle Stevens did with everybody on CBS Sunday morning, or not Sunday, this morning.
This morning, yeah, last week, yeah.
And several things about that interview. First of all, I love John Dickerson, and I'm so glad he's at that table.
What a replacement.
What a replacement. And second of all, I love that the doctor, the male physician at the end of the panel said, this is a time for me to be listening, but I just want to say this is systemic. Yeah. I was like, yay for listening.
Woo, we love listeners. Yeah. Even just saying that out loud, because so many people are like, oh, we don't know what to do. Well, not people, men. Men are like, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to say. How are we supposed to deal with it? Listen. Start with listening would be fantastic. Start with believing. You're doing great.
Yeah. So I first heard about this case on the Burn It All Down podcast, which is about women in sports and kind of maligning really like any disenfranchised person, because they talk a lot about racial minorities and other things like that. And then I started following it because I've been a fan of gymnastics since I was very wee. And even did it when I was younger.
Me too. And then I was too tall and like my feet drug and they were like, child, this is not your sport.
Yeah, we moved and it was like 4 times as expensive in Bucks County as it was in Maryland. And my parents were like, how do we feel about dance? How do we feel about swimming? How do we not feel about gymnastics? But like I have tapes. I kept the final of the 92 Barcelona games on tape and rewatched Carrie Strug like over and over again in my childhood.
It was seminal, I think, for us growing up that kind of period of USA Gymnastics.
Yeah. And now to find out that this entire time, that in 1997, somebody reported to Michigan State that Larry was doing these things and it was completely ignored.
Yeah. That was the first time in that interview that on this morning, because that's how I've been finding out about it. My mom watches CBS This Morning every morning. And so when it was on and I'm having breakfast or she was watching it or whatever, but in that interview, that was the first time I'd ever heard the date, because I hadn't been following it like in depth. And people kept saying, we knew about this for a long time. We knew about this for a long time. But then to actually say 1997.
It's 20 years ago.
20 years ago. It was 19 years between the first complaint and Rachel Denhollander's piece in the Indiana Times or in the Indiana newspaper.
Star, I think. Indianapolis Star.
Star, yeah. 19 years.
That is literally a lifetime. Most of these girls are not even in the sport for 19 years.
No. Some of them weren't even born.
So what does it say about a sport where, okay, so first of all, something that we should cover with gymnastics is that they are kind of meant to be kept little girls in a way that is kind of weird, that as I've gotten older and I'm like, why do they have to be in sparkles? Why? So they're incredibly strong. We know that they're incredible athletes, but we are meant to view them as spectators, as not strong, as like graceful and tiny and flying.
Yeah. And they have to be like hyper feminized because they have to be, I don't know if it's because they have to be so muscular. Like they have to be so strong to do it, and they appear very muscular because they are. In order to perform those things, that maybe in contrast to that, they have to hyper feminize them.
But it's not even hyper feminized because because of all their training, we know that they all have delayed, like their bodies don't mature at the same rate, and so it's like keeping them little girls.
Yeah. And we don't do that to male gymnasts at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I mean, it's not like, that's not something I super want to dwell on, but that is part of this. I think that part of the systemic silencing that happened with this is, it's just the little girl.
Oh yeah. Because then you don't have to believe them.
No.
Little girls have fantasies and dreams and they make things up and they don't know what's real yet because they're too young. And these girls are 19, 20 years old. No, they know what's happening to them. 15, 16, you know what's happening.
A 7-year-old knows when somebody is examining their hip versus examining their vagina. Thank you very much.
They do.
Like, I can't.
I know.
So So not only did USA Gymnastics, which I loved, Rachel Denhollander said, I'm just going to call her Rachel from now on because in my heart we are friends.
I think we would be. I think I would give her a high five and a hug if I saw her in person.
Literally every single time. It's like, what is your true love? Is it chocolate? Is it jelly beans? Is it almonds? I have no idea. Here, have them all for the rest of time. She is just incredible, like absolutely incredible.
She was a force, yeah.
She made this statement that USA Gymnastics is rotting from the inside out.
Yeah.
So here's my question. Why is Michigan State not rotting from the inside out? And what other universities, I'm a graduate of Baylor University, so this is particularly close to home for me. Mm-hmm. What other sports systems at universities are hiding systemic abuse against women? And why does the NCAA not give a flying frick about this? Why is the NCAA not all over this? Why are they not like, okay, so not only do we make money off the backs of athletes, and not only are we entirely making money off amateurs, but we're supporting systems that abuse people flat out. Where is the...
I know. No, I wrote down what she said in her statement because it was so powerful, so I'm going to read it. She said, this is what it looks like, and this was in her...
Was it her victim?
I don't know. Yeah, this is, I think was in her victim statement. Yeah, her impact statement. This is what it looks like when institutions create a culture where a predator can flourish unafraid and unabated. When institutions create a culture. So that's what you said. How many institutions are there that are sustaining cultures like this? Mm-hmm. Because it's not just Michigan State, and it's not just Baylor, and it's not just 10 other universities that I know I've heard of in the last 5 years that I can't even remember because there's been or Stanford for that matter.
Oh my God, Stanford.
Oh my God, literally screaming last night. I was so angry, but that is a story for another time. But yes, they're supporting this institution. They are supporting this culture where it's acceptable to abuse young women and cover it up and silence them and make them feel bad about it.
And so we can win gold medals? Like, I don't.
Yeah. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
That's what I loved about Ali Reissman's impact statement was how she took down USA Gymnastics. And she was like, you have profited off my success. Mm-hmm. And yet neither USA Gymnastics nor the USOC has reached out to me since I spoke out.
I couldn't believe that. Like, there's a line I say all the time, which is, you're doing a big thing badly. And I'm like,
yeah,
there's so much of this. I mean, ever since, really the Me Too movement for me emotionally started with Baylor, because it's because as an alumni, I started hearing stories of women that I had worked with. Yeah. Cause at Baylor, we talk about the football problem all the time, but that was only about a fourth of the sexual assaults that were covered up at Baylor was with the sports department. The rest of them were in the honors college and at the seminary and at the theology school. Like,
it's not just sports.
What? Systemic rape culture is systemic rape culture. And rape culture is what allows this to happen.
Yeah. That's the thing that I think I am struggling with, and I think I understand why people don't want to believe it's systemic or don't want to understand what it means for it to be systemic, because it's really hard, right? Every time one of these stories comes out, the Harvey Weinsteins, or the Baylor story or the Olympic story, everyone's like, oh, but it was everywhere. Oh, but it happened. And if it's systemic in our culture as a whole, as America,
as the world, hi Russia, hi Northern Ireland,
as the world, then it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. What amazes me is that nobody is talking about the church abuse scandal in this same conversation. But hi, do you want to talk about an institution that perpetuated a culture of abuse? Hello.
I know. I thought about the Keepers documentary, especially as we were watching all of this. Like,
I thought about Spotlight last night when I was like reading through some of this stuff, because I was like, we had a big investigation and a big uncovering of this, mm-hmm. and it's 10 years down the road, and all of American society is like, what? Another scandal? What?
It wasn't just old creepy priests. You mean there's other people that do this?
What? Like, I just can't. But like what you were saying, where does the accountability come in for institutions like Michigan State?
Who holds them accountable? Is it their alumni? Because I certainly don't trust alumni, like as a Baylor alum, seeing all these people that were like, oh, but those girls are just lying. I'm sorry, what? Mm-hmm. What? Like, no. And yeah, I mean, the NCAA gave, as far as I'm concerned, I lost all credibility for them the minute they gave Jameis Winston the Heisman. Like,
yeah,
sorry.
Sure.
That's a no.
They just are a cash cow machine. That's all they want to do. They will abuse any athlete or any person who an athlete abuses, so long as they keep making money.
So as long as they keep making money. And then we see how ESPN treats its female anchors. We see how FIFA handles money and talks about humanity and handles women. Like, and our US women don't get equal pay, even though they have more trophies, even though they can manage to qualify for a World Cup when our men can't even manage to find the back of a net if they were paid for it. Oh wait, they are paid for it. Okay. So I want to, though, for a minute, talk about the incredible strength of women.
Oh yes.
Because not only Reissman, I'm not sure how to say it, but the moment that in her testimony, in her impact statement, where she looks at Larry Nassar and says, "You are nothing." Mm-hmm. Like I want it as my ringtone. Like I don't know if people who have never been in a situation where they had to sign an NDA or where they were told that part of their ability to heal from this was keeping it a secret. I don't know if they can understand what an incredible moment that was. Not only for her, but for all the women who couldn't speak, who couldn't be there, who couldn't do it. And she opens it with that. Like, I wasn't going to come, but there were so many women who I needed to speak for. Absolutely insane.
And we've been talking about bravery this quarter.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the impetus for this conversation came from as we were talking about it, because we've been talking about a lot how bravery comes kind of in like smaller moments,
yeah,
or smaller forms of bravery, and there is not a bigger form or a more difficult form of bravery than speaking truth to power.
Absolutely not. And speaking it in a way where, like, I mean, when Rachel wrote that article or did the interview, I can't quite remember, she was it. As far as she knew, she was going to be the only person coming forward.
Yeah.
And thank God that other women took her strength and borrowed it for a little bit and found their own, or had their own to begin with and just needed to know they weren't alone. And I want to be careful as we're talking about bravery too, to not shame any woman who hasn't come forward, because
my God,
because the bravery is not in speaking no matter what. I mean, for a lot of these women, brave is probably getting out of bed every day. Brave might be like, I can't imagine how any of them had really functional, healthy sex lives without therapy. And
no.
So and I know you weren't doing it, but I want to be very clear.
Yeah.
That this is like, I just can't, 175 years isn't enough, but that's all we have. That was his sentence, by the way. Like, sorry.
Yeah, no, I know. And I think that's the thing, right? If you think about how much bravery it takes, as you said, just to live your everyday life when you've suffered that kind of trauma, which is something I can't even begin to fathom. And what it takes to go a step further if you feel like you can. And if that step further starts with the Indianapolis Star or whatever. But what I love about this is what has come from the Me Too movement, what has come from Time's Up, is this, and I forget who somebody used, like, likened it to a choir, like adding voices to a choir. And eventually when so many women are singing, you have to listen.
In the immortal words of Newsies, when you've got 100 voices singing, who can hear a lousy whistle blow?
Right.
When you've got 100 people standing up for proper, equitable, respectful treatment of other human beings, who can hear the monsters anymore?
Amazing that we still have to have this conversation in 2018, but at least we're having it.
I feel more, I don't know, Janelle Monáe on the Grammys on Sunday night said the line that for me is going to be intense, which is, we come in peace, but we mean business.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's what it is. Like, I'm not here to set the world on fire. I'm literally just here to hold people accountable.
Yeah, I'm here to make things equal.
Mm-hmm. And not even equal, but I mean, not even equal access, but also access that acknowledges the systemic inequality that's been happening.
Yeah, accountability and equality.
Mm-hmm.
Let's recognize the situation we've been in and let's fix it.
It is both. I mean, it's what we say to our clients all the time, right? It's going to be the most straightforward answer in the world that is also the hardest. So how do you do it? You do it.
It's hard work.
It's not simple. I mean, it's not easy, but it's simple.
Yeah, but America isn't easy.
America is advanced citizenship.
That's right.
You have to participate.
You have to, like, we build this ethos of a country that we are all hard workers.
And we are. Well,
and we are.
A lot of us.
Most people want to work hard. We have to work hard at this to fix it. It's not just listening. It's not just putting on a button that says time's up.
Nope.
It's not just saying, oh, isn't that awful? And, turning on This Is Us, which is also apparently awful, although I don't watch it. But we can't just look away from this anymore.
No.
We can't just accept that one story is the only story that there is.
No. We have got to start looking at systems. And this is where I need academics to get out of the tower, because we are trained to look at systems.
These systems and cultures and how they form and how they sustain and how they're allowed to maintain even when they're toxic and rotting from the inside.
Yep. What does this all mean? So indeed, we come in peace, but we mean business.
That's right.
And I feel a little calmer.
I feel like I've gotten a little bit of my rage and frustration out, although I'm sure the next time I turn on the news, that will change. That will change. But for now,
I mean, because this is one of the things too, is that, I mean, we cannot do any of this alone.
No.
And we have to be able to identify people in our circles and our spaces that are going to move the conversation forward. So I think a good note to end on is that we, kind of the two of us in our friendship, but also in our company, are continually going to commit to be voices for equity. Yeah. And I would wonder what, we're basically pragmatic company, right? So we always want to know what's going to be the next step. Yes. So I think today the next step is that I'm going to spend a couple hours learning about finances, which I was always told growing up, girls don't do because that's numbers. So I'm gonna spend a couple hours learning about our corporate finances from a really smart woman who has been doing finance in corporate America for most of her career, so that I can be a female voice at the table in our financial conversations. So that's my commitment to equity today and this week.
Cool. I think in light of this, I've been on a letter writing kick lately. I don't know why. I think it's a way to get out my either support or frustration. I wrote a letter to CBS Sunday Morning for an awesome piece that they had. So I think what I'm going to do this week is write some letters to Michigan State, probably to Michigan State and the athletic department. I'm definitely going to write a letter to Stanford University. Because whether or not we want to believe it, the fact that we have our women with PhD behind our names carries some weight. And I've been thinking about that. And I'm like, you know what? If I get to, because of my privilege, if I get to be in this space, and if my voice, for whatever reason, because I have letters after it, carries more meaning than some other woman's, cool. I'm happy to send letters and speak up and say things. So I am going to work on ways that I can communicate my feelings in a polite but angry manner to these institutions.
Yeah, because anger and politeness are not, in fact, mutually exclusive emotions.
No, women can be both angry and polite, as we have shown you today through this video.
Angry and kind. Anger can be righteous. Yep.
That's right.
Okay, well, you go write letters. I'm going to go look at numbers, and we'll talk later.
Awesome.
Okay. Bye. Bye.